We are calling this meeting to order, Parks Commission,
6:09.
at 6:09 p.m., October 6th, 2022, Parks Commission. A little bit late, handling microphone issues. And so, a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I have a few minor edits. Ready? Ready?
Yes.
Okay. In the others in attendance, Mark Jones, Mark spells his name M-A-R-C. It is spelled correctly in 5B, where he spoke. And then in 5A, the second paragraph, where it says, right in the middle of that second paragraph, city forester naturalist provided comments, I would suggest that say provided written comments, because this sounds like it was an in-person verbal, and the written comments were in our packet, so if anybody wanted to find them, refer to them. They're in the packet that was not in person. Okay. Then under 5B, the paragraph right there, it is one long sentence, so I'm going to read the one long sentence, and I will change a word in the middle, so follow along. Mark, spelled correctly, Jones and Mike Croft attended and provided an update on improvements planned for Veterans Memorial Park, including 3 additional flagpoles adjacent to the new memorial and a gazebo to provide a space for contemplation along with protection from the weather for a future kiosk. Then in 6A, I had a question, the 4th bullet point, arrow on the Southwest Trail connection going to the school. Can we clarify that? I don't know what that meant, or I'm not remembering.
Katie, was that a remark?
I believe I asked for something showing that we would like that Southwest Trail connection to connect to the school. But since it is on school property, it wasn't something we could show as a park development.
Could you suggest some better wording so this is clearer of what that is about?
Arrow on the Southwest Trail. Do we want to say arrow on the Southwest Trail connection showing future connection to the school?
What does it mean by arrow? You mean a sign?
I think we were literally showing an arrow, a symbol, an arrow symbol.
On the actual rendering, the park draft,
Yep.
to put in an arrow showing the desire for a future path connection to the school ground.
Okay.
As opposed to showing a drawn pathway connection on that rendering.
Okay. Does this seem clear to you? Or, I mean, I would be very willing if you wanted to suggest better wording so it was a little clearer of what this line means.
I would say we could amend that to say arrow on the Southwest Trail connection, or arrow on the Southwest Trail showing a future connection going to the school.
You mean like there is an arrow drawn on the map that shows
Correct.
We want a path here?
Yes, correct.
Scott, good?
Or arrow symbol.
I think I'll
Okay.
That's
talk to Katie if I need to.
All right. And then a question in that same section right there, just because right below that it says, with these updates included, an open house / public meeting will be scheduled to reveal this final draft. Now, I've actually heard from 2 different people on this commission who did not hear or did not know of this meeting. So it's kind of important. Can we at least put in here that this public meeting for No Stone or Prairie neighborhood review is October 13th, starting at 6:30 in this room?
That's incorrect. Yeah, we haven't set that meeting yet.
You sent us a flyer on it.
Yeah, as a sample, right? We haven't, right?
It has not been.
No, it has not been set.
Oh.
Right.
Okay. I'm confused.
We'll talk about that in
Okay.
one of the
All
agenda
right.
items.
Skip on past that. Cross out the October 13th, I guess. I don't know. It'd be right above 6B, below there, park system fence maintenance, the sentence there, I would like it to read Scott N. will provide additional information as it relates to questions raised around the installation and removal of an outfield fence at Hugo Jamestown Park. There was more discussion about the removal, I would say, than the original installation. Is that agreeable? And my last question for clarification right here in 7C, the chart on all of the park types. I know I did, point out there, community parks, it's not just 2, it's 4, because the Nine Springs Golf Course and the Sunnyside Dog Park were reclassified to be community parks. So are we going with this table or with the corrected version that there are 4 community parks? What should this show?
No, this is just kind of an informational thing at this point. We'll certainly update it so it's accurate, Patrick.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is what was presented
Yes.
to the meeting and that we discussed.
Preliminary list, just to kind of, I guess I just wanted to show the increase in the size of the park system, and certainly there needs to be, corrections made where needed.
All right. That's fine. Then those are my edits.
Okay. Any additional edits or comments? And a second for approval?
I second.
Those in favor of the minutes of the September meeting as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes as amended have been passed. Do we have any public appearances for non-agenda items? Nobody on? Okay. Then we shall move to a review and approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as written.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, Julia has seconded. Those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Carries.
I didn't press the button.
Oh.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
She did. She said aye.
Yeah, I said.
I'll slow down a little too, so I'm not putting people in the wrong category. Action items, 5A, which is the resolution about the Veterans Memorial Park. This did pass, and so it's not an action item, but really would have belonged more in our update.
Well, actually, it was referred to the Park Commission at this meeting, so it does need to be an action item, but it's really meant to be an update to the Park Commission that the council did approve those donations.
Okay.
Why was it referred to us the second time?
Julia's the one that referred it. Yeah.
No. We discussed it here, but we never saw this resolution. So I was surprised to see this resolution in the council agenda the other night when I went, in September 26th meeting, because I think we discussed and we were all in favor, but there never was an actual resolution to us. So I think in the future, Scott, we need to be sure that these resolutions are coming to park before it get approved by council.
And typically what I really like to do is get the Park Commission to kind of be informed on the resolution and get their approval and those kinds of things. And then it does go through the process. So it ended up, yeah.
Okay, I know what happened. Now, I talked to Chad, the city administrator, and I said, why we are not moving this amendment to park? And they told me because they want to install the gazebo before, November, Veteran Day? 11. So if they had to wait for our meeting today to be approved, and then it goes to council September 11 next week. So there was a 1 month.
September or October?
October, okay. October 11 next week. So there going to be 1 month that they were behind installing the gazebo, and they want to do it before November 10 or whenever. Yeah. So that one was the reason, because it was time sensitive.
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So are we technically approving the resolution at Parks even though council has already approved it?
Well, when we did hear from the group and the same information presented to the council was presented to us in advance, and we voted
Yep, that
to
you were,
accept it, we simply we did not have a resolution number or wording.
The resolution wasn't available to us yet.
Right.
So that sounds like what I said, that we were technically approving the resolution even though the council has already taken action on it. We're just getting ourselves on the record, but a month late.
Do you need a vote?
sure, if you.
I mean, we-
if you-
Sure.
Yeah, I did, sure, you can
Okay.
officially approve it, yeah.
All right. Then I would need a motion to approve this.
We don't have any discussion on it or anything, do we? Anything?
Well, we can do that, and I'll just ask the motion in the second and ask if there's any
Oh.
further discussion.
Okay.
Do you want to move to approve?
Sure. Move to approve the resolution R-179.
79-22.
179-22.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I guess I would just mention in comment that when I see, the information that is in our packet now, somehow it just was not clear to me that the kiosk goes in the gazebo. That was confusing before, and I'm more understanding of this now. However, it just seems like we have better information in this packet than we did in September.
Yeah, same information.
And I just didn't, that drawing was hard to read. This is a little better, I guess, this time.
Yeah. Any other discussion? No. Did we have a second? Yes, Sarah. All right, those in favor of approval of Resolution R-179-22, Veterans Memorial Park Flagpole and Gazebo Donation Acceptance?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Okay, 5B, Resolution R-188-22, Acceptance of Dog Playground Park Improvements Fencing Bid, Outlot 11 of Crescent Crossing. And I know Scott will give us info, and we also will have Matt Salisbury to represent D'Onofrio.
If I could kick it off, this is,
We need to make the resolution.
You're right. So, a motion to approve.
I move approval of resolution R-188-22, acceptance of dog playground park improvement fencing bid, outlot 11 of Crescent Crossing.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, Scott.
now you ready? Very good. Now, this is, if you recall, Outlot 7 was the tot lot, which was the item that the Park Commission approved last time, and actually in the interim, the CSM was approved along with the SIA, which I included in your packet at the end of the information here. And basically, what's happening now is they're beginning to start to use the same process, but only doing the fence at this point. They did publicly bid the project. I did include in your information the bid tabulation, and actually come to find out that Century Fence is going to be the subcontractor of Prairie, and we've worked with them before in the past, and we're happy with their work. And I might also note that the total bid amount of $66,645 was in the ballpark, if you would, and actually it might be easier if I just read this was from Matt. Matt, that's here, that the budget number for the fence and the gate was about $62,000. The low bid was $66,645, so it was within that, within the budget, close to the budget, with a with a 10% addition that's included in the developer's agreement. And what I wanted to do is go to here's the estimate budget. And if you see the top two, the fence and the gates, that totals $62,000. So they're real close to their budget amount, which is good to see. And actually, we do call for a 10% over in the developer's SIA, if you would. So that allows for that. So, and in this too is again that they're wanting to get going on this so that they could actually get this installed this fall yet.
Any questions, Patrick?
Yeah, what you just mentioned there, I had a couple questions on that. So yeah, there is that 10% contingency, but wouldn't the, I don't know, would the 10% contingency be already included in our budget for the fence and gates was about 62,000. Well, that's actually what he is writing.
No.
Would that?
It would be 10% on to the 62,000.
Okay.
So it's basically
So
the
it's really
project is allowed.
68,000.
Pardon me?
So that the total budget for this then
Is
62,000 plus 10%, that's about 68,000.
right. So
Okay.
they're satisfied, and we're satisfied that they received a good
Okay.
estimate for the work.
Yeah, and I mean, I could note that Century Fence was the one that put up the Hugel Jamestown fence. It was fine.
Right.
Different problem about it being there. And they also put up the north outfield fence in McGaw Park, and it's fine, both by Century Fence. I'll ask my question, even though it may be moot. If the total budget, okay, it's more like this. There's some calculation, and the calculation comes up with an amount of fee that the developer would normally pay the city in the old way, and then the city would take that money and put the improvements in. The new way is the developer is responsible to put in the improvements. The same calculation is used to come up with a total for the, call it infrastructure, the facilities, the amenities. And I know there was wording somewhere that says that they, as they wanted to do, they would collect the materials, bid it out themselves, and give us invoices and such for what it costs. But there was a specific line somewhere that says not to exceed the fee that they would ordinarily, in the old way, would have paid the city. So my question that I was thinking of, which may be moot, is this within their fee amount? Because it said not to exceed that fee. In other words, if the bids, out of their control a little bit, but still, if the bids that they collected were over the fee, they'd have to cover the rest, right? The city only allows them to be reimbursed for the amount of the fee by the calculation.
I'm not following you.
Okay. Again, the old way was you come up with some calculation that you have that says, okay, for the amenities in the park, they have to pay amount X.
Correct.
All right? And now the new way is that they bid around and get bids for the amenities.
Right.
They install the amenities or have someone do it.
Right.
But the amount that they spend can only be up to X.
Right. And if you look at on page 25 of the packet, park improvement credits, they have an allotment of $228,100 per this agreement for the development of both Outlot 7 and Outlot 11, with the ability to go up 10% from that amount. So the
Page
25.
25,
25.
Parkland improvement credits.
Yep.
Okay.
So the approved budget for both Outlot 7 and Outlot 11 within the developer's agreement is totally $228,100.
Okay.
So they are able to go 10% beyond that. And what that does is that puts a protection in for the city that they're just not going out there and spending all this money, so.
Right. In other words, we're not, okay, they're obligated to pay a fee.
Yep.
We're holding them to not more than that fee for the amount they can spend on the park improvements.
For those two
So
parks.
that the city doesn't have to then turn and draw money from somewhere else to help pay for the improvements.
Correct, and I might indicate, and on the bottom there, the securities, they actually provided $567,580 as far as parkland dedication fees and park improvement fees.
That's a different fee though, isn't it? Park dedication?
Park dedication, that's the amount of dollars that they provided as part of their park improvement fees and parkland dedication.
Okay, you're adding two fees together there.
I'm adding two fees, yes.
The
park fees
I don't
in
see
lieu
the
of-
validity of adding the two fees together. I mean, they can't take from one to spend on the other, right? There's a park dedication fee. Separately, there's a park improvement fee. Out of the park improvement fee, they put the improvements in, the amenities.
But we can certainly use the park dedication fee, in lieu of parkland dedication, we can use those dollars to improve their park also.
We can?
Yeah,
That doesn't sound right.
yeah. Because it's in their development and in their area, so we're able to utilize those dollars to develop their park.
Okay, if you say so.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
So when is the rest of the park will be developed? We are going to put the fencing all in, but when is the rest of the amenity are going to be included?
Next spring,
Okay,
spring of 2023.
okay. And because you have a budget here for those amenity, so do you expect that those amounts are going to be the same in 4 months?
I have no idea what prices are going to do. They're trending upwards, and if it becomes an issue, then we'll have a bid, and if we need to, we'll have a unit price bid, and if we need to take items out of the bid, we'll do that to meet the budget. We did bid this out all as one package in August, but we did not receive any qualified bids. We received one bid that was outrageous, and it was not qualified, so.
Because some of the amenity, the tag price is a dog park, and this is dog amenities. They're kind of very expensive. I was surprised to see that. So, yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? And did you have anything, Matt, that you wanted to convey to all of us, other than what's written and what we've already talked about?
I don't think so. Just offhand, we're looking to get started as soon as we can. So I think this goes before, if it's passed here, it goes before the council next Tuesday, and then we'll try to have a contract and get started in the next couple weeks.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned that the fencing is going to be black vinyl, so.
It is not actually. So that was on the preliminary budget. It's not black vinyl. So based off of other city projects,
Okay.
I think it was deemed not fair to have an improved fence there. So it's actually going to be
A regular fence.
galvanized. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering about that too. On what says draft estimated budget, 4-foot tall fence, black vinyl coated.
Yep.
So it's not black vinyl coated, it's steel colored, galvanized,
Correct.
4-foot tall.
Yep.
Okay. 4-foot tall is enough? Everybody's happy with 4-foot tall for a dog playground area? The Sunnyside Dog Park, I believe, is 5 feet tall.
I have a question.
Okay.
You may know parts of this. We had raised a question about some new fencing that was removed from a park.
Going to be removed,
And
still up.
whether it could be used for your project, and the answer that came back at the time was no. It was in, I think, our packet from last month describing that you couldn't use it. But now that you are going back to a galvanized, it's 5 feet. Can you make use of it at all in the Big Dog Park? And Scott, you might have more to add to my question, telling me that it wouldn't work or it might work.
And I would suggest 5 feet tall is better than 4 feet tall.
How much? I mean, it's.
Can you pull up the bid tab? I mean, if I remember correctly, the quantity of that fence was quite a bit less than what we needed, and then we were going with the 4-foot fence. So, I mean, there would be somewhere where we had to do some sort of transition on
Yeah.
there, and then not knowing the condition of that existing fence, and then taking it down and then putting it back up, how that was gonna
Yeah.
fare the
The
travel with that.
Jamestown fence is brand new,
It was-
installed in May
Yeah.
of this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's, I don't know the total. I did measure the outfield, but I didn't know the sides were included. So Scott, do you know the total length of the fencing? Side, wings, and the outfield?
I'd hate to,
I don't have my notes on that stuff. I mean, even if it was, I kind of think that it would be less than the 1,200 linear feet listed here, but it's plain galvanized fence, so if it is short, which it probably is, Century Fence, if that's who you're using, right?
Yep.
They would have more of the same fence that they just installed at Hugel Jamestown.
Right, and the other idea that Patrick alluded to is you might think about putting the 5 feet just on the large dog side. And I agree, I understand what you're saying, you'd have a transition from one to the other. It abuts some residential lots. They might like a 5-foot fence on the big dog side. So I don't know if what we're suggesting here interferes with approving this resolution.
Suggest further negotiations with the Parks Director on a fence we already own.
well, and I think what we could do is certainly, as Matt and his team proposed, you know, it would be up to them that we would approve it as proposed, but then, you know, maybe if there's a consideration or what it might be, you know, there might be something that could be done. But again, I defer to Mike and his team and what they want to produce out there. But certainly, you know, if it's something that could be utilized, then we'd leave it up to them on what they would want to do. But I guess at this point, I would just like to stay with what they've proposed here and go from there.
Okay, question on that.
Go ahead.
Without digging through the pages and trying to figure this out, is this right in front of us here at this meeting in the packet and everything? Is this proposing the 4-foot tall galvanized fence or the 4-foot tall black vinyl coated fence?
So the bid was for the 4-foot tall galvanized fence.
Okay.
Patrick, I see that we need to move on. We need to vote on this.
But
It's
what are
something we
you,
have a say in, so.
yeah. Is what you have printed there what's in our packet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and were you reading on there that it said the vinyl coated?
Yeah, right there.
Okay, all right. I agree that we will vote and we will move on, and that if there is any way your entities find that that there's anything offering from the city that helps, you can work that out, right? And we won't interject anything into this motion to interfere with just moving forward.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we're more than happy to work with the city and
It might
keep that
help.
relationship going, so.
Okay. So, no further questions, comments? Okay. Those in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming. Okay, 6A, Stoner Prairie Park designation. Now, this is listed under our area, that's discussion and action item. And Scott, it is something the council will want to know our vote. So we're going to discuss this as if we will be voting. Okay. Should we just do a motion ahead of time and then?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like we should? Well, we'd have to, I will do this. I will say, I'm going to offer a motion to approve the Stoner Prairie Park designation as an area park.
Second.
Okay, now we may discuss, and please, Scott, get us rolling.
Is that you, Katie? Oh, Sarah has a second. Very good, and I thank you for that, Sue. And actually, I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce Deanna Schmidt. She's our city planner, and she has joined us for the meeting tonight, and I thank you for that, Deanna. She did, in review of the Stoner Prairie Park development plan, I did send you information before the meeting that also affirmed that the eventual idea of this park was to be an area park. I will say that I did include the park and open space plan from 2015 to 2020. Within this park and open space plan, the Stoner Prairie Park is designated as a neighborhood park. And I also included in your packet definitions of both area and neighborhood park with the amenities that are typically in those two park classifications. I gave you the additional information, but at the end of the day, with the with the changing potentially from a neighborhood park to an area park, I wanted to make sure that everyone was on board and that the Common Council at some point would make that final determination. The way I've kind of set up the order here is I'm going to be working on the referral and the resolution that's going to be referred out to the Common Council. And I think I did include a little bit of the timeline. I would refer it out on the 25th of October. It would then come back to the Park Commission at their meeting in November, and then finally be approved by the council on November 22nd. And then at that point, with the official designation of the park, then I would go out to the neighborhood and inform them that this is what the park is officially classified as, and then continue the process to, implement it and those kinds of things. And I think it is important to note that, depending on whether it's a neighborhood park or an area park, it's going to kind of drive. I know we've talked about bathrooms. I know we've talked about a shelter. But certainly the area park shelter is a lot different, not only in its structure, but in its use than a neighborhood park. So I think it's really, I know it's taken a little bit of time, but I think it's really going to provide some clarity on what this area is. And at the end of the day, the council and the Park Commission needs to decide what best use this area provides. And I will say that it's evolved. Certainly I would argue that it functions to some degree as an area park. It may not have the area park amenities, a bathroom or a shelter, but certainly with the activities that are held in the area, it does function as an area park. And certainly with the additional properties that were added when the Stoner Prairie Park new addition came in, the acreage is appropriate and those kinds of things. And really what I'd like to do is be able to put a whereas clause in the resolution that the Park Commission is recommending to the council that this be changed from a neighborhood park to an area park. And then Deanna is here. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add, Dee. Certainly feel free.
Well, thank you all for having me here this evening. Very happy to join you. All that I provided to Scott was a little bit of background on the North Stoner Prairie Neighborhood Plan. And in that plan, it recognized and recommended that the Stoner Prairie Park become an area park with the appropriate amenities and features. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to try to field them.
I have one question. What was the date that plan was finally approved?
That plan, and just let me so I get the exact right date. It was in 2013, and council approved that on December 10th of 2013.
Okay. So when it was just something that got, well, it wasn't, I don't think we had all the land wasn't acquired, so that this particular Parks and Open Space plan couldn't move ahead and change it because it was all future-oriented. So that explains why it's listed as an area in our existing plan. Would that be correct? Or rather, let me rephrase that. That's why it's listed as a neighborhood park in our current plan, is all of this required land acquisition and actual development to bring in the acreage.
That is my understanding. When the North Stoner Prairie neighborhood plan was completed, all of the lands were not under city ownership, and the development of the park was yet to happen in 2013. So I'm sure early on, it would not have been appropriate to designate in 2013 or 2014. It would not have been appropriate to designate the park as an area park. That makes sense.
Thank you.
And I might add, if I would, is certainly if it's designated as an area park, just as it took time to become an area park, it is going to potentially take time in phasing and developing the park in order to have all the amenities of an area park with budget and those kinds of things in mind. So I guess it would be the same type of methodology that, you know, it should be designated as an area park, and then we'll work to implement it as an area park and provide the amenities.
That sounds right. Any other questions? Patrick?
I'm just looking over the designations or the facilities that are typical for neighborhood and area and community park, and I see that shelter and drinking fountain, for example, are in neighborhood parks. It says size permitting neighborhood parks, area parks, and obviously community parks. There could potentially be a, let's say, very small park somewhere that could be a neighborhood park that could still get a shelter. There's no reason it couldn't be sort of overbuilt, right?
You mean a drinking fountain?
Anything. I mean,
I would say typically probably not, Patrick. We'd have, it may be oversized, but certainly wouldn't have power or those kinds of amenities that maybe an area park might need.
well, what I'm getting at is this list of amenities a limiting list?
I would say to some degree, just because of dollars and service radius and those kinds of things that.
In a practical sense.
Yeah, and I might add too that, community parks not only provide a park for the community, they also provide an area park, if you would, for the same area, and then also a neighborhood park for that community. And similar to the Stoner Prairie, we're really developing a new Stoner Prairie neighborhood park, if you would, for the neighbors, but certainly with the function and the use of the area, it certainly would lend itself to be an area park. So it's both a neighborhood park for the direct neighbors and an area park for a wider service radius, if you would.
It says that right at the top of that page 30 right there, the second sentence. Area park serves a dual role as a neighborhood park for immediate residents and also as an expanded facility to serve the needs of larger groups within the city.
Look.
That's right.
So I guess a question that I have, just for clarification right here, it looks, we're looking at the park map, and it looks large, but on this list on page 34 in our packet, it says Stoner Prairie Park 6.6 acres. So is all of the land, in other words, that can be counted as this park, is that total, correct?
No,
Bigger
well,
than
you're looking at the Park and Open Space Plan from
Yeah.
2015. See, that was the current Stoner Prairie Park.
Okay,
At that
And then
time.
when the Stoner Prairie Park development came in, we've got the additional 4 acres or whatever it might be. So we've got a total of 10.2 or 10.4. Okay.
Yeah,
so-
it went from 6.6 to 10.4 acres.
okay.
And then as an aside, the Public Works lot on the corner that houses the pressure station and potentially restrooms is another 0.4 acres.
Okay, so that like 10.6
Well,
approximately?
the entire only technically park is 10.8 acres. Then there's a 0.4 acres attached to it.
Where the restrooms
Where the
are over in
restrooms
that
would have to
northwest
be.
corner.
Yeah,
So we can sort of,
just depends on,
not technically on Scotts
just under
list, but
11 acres.
You can walk around that building, so you've got, 11.2 or something acres. I guess that's what I was getting at when I saw the 6.6. And again, it's probably not a limiting factor or a prerequisite or something, but, it seemed like it only fit into the neighborhood park acreage category, but with the new numbers there, then it's more appropriately an area park too. But of course, not big enough to be a community park.
But again, these are just guidelines. Again, it's
Yeah.
not all-inclusive or.
Right.
But-
Which was part of my first question of, is this a limiting list of it cannot have, a feature that's not in the right column?
Any other questions, Leah?
Yes, I want to make a comment that, so the area parks, they have more amenities. And I think some of the amenity that, we are not going to be able to cover with the amount of money that we have in the budget. This is another project that we need to have maybe before the CIP next year to determine what are the amenities that we need to include in the CIP. Because the shelter need to be bigger because, or need to have other feature, so, we need to include that in the CIP plan.
Right. And certainly we have the Stoner Prairie proper dollars that we receive from the Stoner Prairie development, which we should utilize to create the neighborhood park amenities. And then certainly there potentially could be some additional dollars left over from the Crescent Crossing development that in theory could help the project become an area park when the well house could potentially add bathrooms. And again, too, I think as we continue to look to develop this area park, there are going to be limitations. There's similar, there may not be parking, similar to Tower Hill or Swan Creek and that's going to, certainly we don't want to put a shelter in there that's going to house 200 people when we don't have the accommodations. So it may be a smaller open air shelter or whatever it might be. So I think it will actually all work out at the end, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, that's going to be a decision that we're going to have to make as far as priorities and phase 1 and phase 2 potentially if needed, depending on the dollars that we do have.
So what you're saying is the plans for this, in particular the shelter design, is not a fixed size?
No, correct. That's more.
Don't go by the picture.
It's more of a place. It was a place setting.
Yeah. Okay.
Same thing with the playground. Same thing with. It was more of a. Okay, what's going to be in there? Where are these things going to be located? But the specific details of each of those amenities still need to be determined.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve that North Stoner Prairie Park is an area park. All those in favor?
Oh, one question. I'm looking through the packet here, and I don't see any actual resolution. Are we just making a recommendation to the council?
Well,
Yes.
My comment is we are making a recommendation because we don't have official resolution. Yeah, you're.
I'm going to include in the resolution a whereas clause that the park commission is recommending that this goes from a neighborhood park to an area park.
But that's what I'm getting at, is where are you going to put this
Well,
line in? We don't have a resolution.
No.
Right.
We are.
Oh, when it gets created?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
resolution that'll be
Okay.
referred out, come back to the park commission.
It's gonna
Okay.
come back again.
We're on the advanced step.
Yeah.
This,
You've got to read my agenda.
right. This is step A. All those in favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? This motion,
Yeah.
motion carries.
Does say so right here.
Yeah, exactly.
I read it, I just forgot.
Okay. All right. 6B is a Town of Madison update.
And actually, this was a part of the park commission request in Town of Madison, yep. So what I did, and actually Deanna is staying online, which I appreciate, she may be able to offer some comments regarding the teen center update, but prior to that, the Town of Madison, I did include, let me get to it here. It is page 47 in your packet, which is something that we've been working on for quite some time. It has each of the different departments and the things that we've been working on with the, October 31st, we're going to be absorbing this into the city. And I did, as you recall, when we went through the budget process, we included specific things for the Town of Madison, specifically a lot for the Southdale Park. I will make mention that we had the hub dollars in there, but those were all removed because we're not anticipating the hub is going to be ready until 2024. So that's kind of where the Town of Madison, I think it was like $13,500 that was added to the operating budget for the Town of Madison. We also had some park, nothing there. There was some park amenities. I think there's a park ID sign and some other things. And here it is. So in 2023, we were looking to do park ID sign and basketball court replaced. 2024, playground update, and 2025 park shelter upgrade. So there's some CIP dollars that have been allocated for the Town of Madison. While the inclusion of Southdale Park and the Town of Madison into the city. So I wanted to provide that, and hoping that was what you were looking for. If that's good, we'll go right to the Marine Edge Park, because I think that was
I wanted to comment at this point. I mentioned at a prior meeting a couple months ago that I would like us to explore changing the name of the park, because it was the southern area of that region of the Town of Madison, but now it's in the north section of Fitchburg. So there may be a way to not confuse people if we find a name that perhaps neighbors and local business leaders in that area, if there's anybody, any group, I don't know if that's the case, but I think we should explore a different name than Southdale for the park. And hopefully it could be driven by what area neighbors might like and or in conjunction with businesses in that area.
In other words, Southdale being way to the north is a little confusing.
Yeah, and everything's changing for people there, so they might enjoy being able to choose a new name. I don't want to foist a name upon the people that live there. There might be something that comes up that's quite appropriate and more accurate.
I know I read something that the city was declaring areas that were being absorbed from the Town of Madison, like hereinafter called, like area over here was going to be hereinafter called the Zimbrick area and such. There was a few of those. Wasn't, actually, I understand what you're saying. Wasn't one of those possibly that area up there hereinafter called the Southdale area?
So that one is the official name from that area. There is a neighborhood plan called Southdale neighborhood plan. So I don't know if changing the name because people already know that area by that name.
Well, and I thought about that, and that's a fair point. But there are parks throughout city, county, state, the country that don't necessarily get the name that was originally attached to the planning area. Do we have any, and I don't know whether we do or don't in Fitchburg offhand. What are the businesses in the area? Is that where, is that your Alder area? No. No, that's
District
District
3.
3, okay.
My district.
Well,
There's Zimbrick, there's a couple of Zimbrick dealerships, there's somebody's healthcare office, I forget which one, there's a big office building there.
well, I guess to not draw this out too much more on this just little specific topic here, perhaps just checking in with the district alders about the idea. They may have met with community leaders or have heard from some or will be or know the business leaders. And there might be a way of doing it. I guess, because once, if we just go ahead and leave it as it is and spend money on a sign, I just think it's confusing, and this is the opportunity to try to think about doing something a little different. So that's my remark. Okay, yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So we go to Town of Madison. Marine Edge Park update. And what I did is I included, that's Marine Edge Park, the CIP. And you can see in 2029, there is $2 million in there, but it's certainly outside of our 5-year typical begin to start to work on the project. I did include Dana Dentis. I don't know how many of you remember Dana Dentis, yeah, PC. And myself, I remember her, yeah. In 2011, she actually began to start to work on this Marine Edge Park concept, which was really kind of an idea of separating the rural from the urban. But she did a lot of work, and Ed Bartell also assisted. But at the end of the day, we ended up with this. There was a park and open space proposal, which was really an inventory of all the different amenities within there. And I guess what I'm saying is there is a process that Dana set up way back in 2011, which, if I recall, there was dollars in the budget to begin to start to acquire property, but then periodically it was taken out. So, but now it's back on the radar, if you would. So I guess that's kind of the update. Things kind of go full circle, actually, to be honest with you.
Well, and one of the reasons I was hoping that we would begin to talk about this is because so many of us are new and we're not necessarily reading documents that aren't on our agenda for action. But the other thing that occurred here is that this goes along Irish Lane, the north side of Irish Lane in one section, about in the middle of the map. And there is a capital improvement project for repaving Irish Lane, and this is Engineering Public Works, repaving it and adding bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, and doing that makes the road wider and then goes into tree removal. And so when I was inquiring about it during the capital process, there really wasn't anyone in Public Works that, now I'm not saying it would have changed anything that they are working on, but they didn't even know this exists.
Amen.
And so we have a line from a movie. What we have here is a failure to communicate. Because there can certainly be a way where this can be accommodated. And as I understand it, and I could be wrong, but the repaving or reconstruction project is dependent on a state grant or a grant of some sort that may or may not come to pass, and if it doesn't come to pass, it's just going to be a road resurfacing. But we just were totally cut out of the equation, yet because the Transportation and Transit Committee interacts directly with engineering, their wish, their needs for implementing the bike lanes were front and center and accommodated. So, Deanna, we're counting on you to sort of watch over us as projects come up, and I don't know what can be done about this, but we don't want this just chipped away at because every time another department has a project they have to do, they don't even know about this or have to think about it.
Yeah, I think you have a really good point. And I'm still a little new here too and trying to put all the pieces together. So, but I take your point to heart.
Yeah.
I think that when we have this big project, road project, they need to also send that in, refer some of the project to, if there are trees that they need to be removed of, especially with this project with Irish Lane, that I put an amendment in the CIP, and it was rejected because I saw that. I remember about moraines, and I said, oh, it's going to, and I went there, I took picture, and I said, all these trees are going to be gone. I talked to some of the owner of the farm there, and they have like a 200-300-year-old oaks that are in the path. So, and I think there was a disconnect. You say so. It was a disconnect of communication between, public works engineer and by the way, we have this project coming, this park, and I think they didn't know because most of the people in that department are new people. So, but I think in the future we need to, if we see something like this, Scott, Diane, maybe we don't have too much to say, but I think we need to be aware in the Parks Commission or in the Tree Committee too, you know what I mean? So it will be helpful because, it was a surprise for many people about, oh, by the way, we didn't know about this, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Thank you. Patrick?
Yeah, so as you're saying, we're saying we have an interest in the Irish Lane improvements because of the trees along there, and we want the trees for Marine Edge Park.
Correct. Correct. I mean, the whole point of, maybe not the entire point, but a large point of why it's located along Irish Lane is because there are 200 and 300-year-old oaks there. And that argument was not a successful one during that process, but it's not a done deal. This is dependent on a grant, and that may or may not come to pass. If it does not come to pass, then I really think we need to be more proactive in that corridor and just protect the corridor regardless of which other department has to think about improvements of their own responsibility.
So Scott or Deanna, what is the timeline for implementing this master plan?
The Marine Edge Park?
Yeah.
Well, they like I say, it was in the plan at one point in time, and then the funding, so there wasn't interest. So now there's interest again, and the funding is in 2029. So, and typically we don't begin to work on planning, 5 years, more than 5 years in advance. So with that in mind, it would be, so maybe in 2025, we would begin to start to potentially do some things.
Do we know that the current landowners that fall within this corridor even know that this plan exists for the full length?
Yep, we've got, well, that's, I don't know if it's in this information, but
I think it is. I saw it somewhere that
Deanna
she made
Deanna
contact.
has all the owners and the prices and all of those kinds of things. So like I say, the process to implement it is all there. It's just a matter of the funding. And the funding, well, and I suspect what prompted the work that Deanna did is that the funding was there. So we were going to begin to start to work on it. But then, like I say, every year the funding was removed. So, we didn't really get a chance to implement what Dana was worked on for us.
Well, another question.
Well,
Go ahead.
So we had a list of the homeowners, but is this current or is this the one from 2011 when this plan was done?
It would be a list from 2011.
Okay,
when
so
the
that's
plan-
why I'm saying, do the current landowners?
It would be the same owners.
It's a couple of farms.
No property has changed.
Property
we
turns
don't- we
over
don't-
and it is creeping very close to the edge of development.
Yeah,
So I don't want us to lose our chance.
right. And that's the question I have, that how do you thread the needle between saying, well, we're not, it's too soon for us to start planning, but if something is imminent, or I think we should revisit it once we know what happens to the grant that, for the road reconstruction, whether it goes through or does not go through. We should be revisiting this and find out if in the next year's budget, that 2029 year can be brought closer to us so we can do some planning.
And I would argue that the plan is all ready to go. It's just a matter of the dollars to implement it.
Well, yes, that's true. There was an alder, none present here, who said, despite the fact that they see this in here, that this project is never going to take place. That's kind of the attitude.
Have you repeated what
That this project will never happen.
Oh.
And so I didn't like that.
Not naming names.
No, and it doesn't matter, but because it's been in and out of the budget more than once, the impression is that it's just there and it's going to disappear again someday.
I'm going to tell you something.
Go ahead.
Everything that is in the CIP plan is a plan. It can be there, and then 1 year it's going to be delayed or get out of the CIP.
Yeah.
I think until we are very close, no one changed that CIP, time frame. It's when it's 2029. Everything can happen, to be honest with you, because people remove and put the stuff in the CIP because it's a plan, it's not,
Yeah.
Well, and maybe to Katie's point that, the idea of, first right of refusal, that if these properties become available, then, hey, we'd love to consider the idea because, I think the property is all there. It's not being sold off or that I'm aware of. So, I think at the end of the day, it's the property. And that was really what the dollars were meant to do, was to acquire the property from each of these landowners.
Or maybe they want to donate part of that portion of the, to the city to protect this. I think that one could be another option, to,
It's a very
And I guess
hopeful-
that's kind of my point. Have they been contacted within the last 11 years to say, we're still interested?
Yeah. Well, right, and especially because it was just added back in to the CIPs last year.
We're not authorized to do any work on anything that's farther than 5 years out in the CIP. So, and that's, get someone to move the $2 million up to 2025.
What?
Well, and I understand why that might be an important rule to have. I don't know if it'll ever work in an instance where you're trying to plan a huge, forward-thinking project like this. So,
Is provide the information to the policymakers, and then they decide what's, you know, and I have passion for it too, Sue.
yeah, oh, I'm not,
But at the end of the day, it's all we can do as a park commission is provide the information, and then the policymakers decide what the priority is.
Another, maybe next year we can talk in a committee of the whole meeting. We can talk about this plan because I will say some of the elders, they are new or they have been in the council for 2 or 3 years and maybe they don't have any idea of this project. You know what I mean?
yes, yeah.
So I think we need to educate internally our elected official too, especially the new elder that, by the way, there is, especially people that they are, you know, they like parks or they like to maintain this. We have this plan, you know, and I think some people, they don't know about this project. I found out about this project like 2 years ago, to be honest. But this is what I said, we need to maybe educate the council about this, you know, plan, because so we can do it through a committee of the whole presentation, you know, could be an option.
Well, and to that point, to Katie's point, to be able to draft a letter to these property owners and say, hey, just keep us in mind, you know, no approval, you know, no, just if you're looking to sell, keep us in mind because this is part of a bigger project. You know, and that's the same thing the way Dane County works. They have the big plan, but then bits and pieces, and then it kind of comes to fruition.
And I'm glad you mentioned Dane County because that might be it might be a situation where you'd want to partner with something like an entity like Dane County or even the state.
I would think it'd be more a partnership with the current property owners entity.
Okay. Patrick?
I've been aware of this project since it was originally created by Jim Kristoff and Tom Hovell, as it says in there. And as I'm remembering, this was always by whatever current councils pushed out to the 10th year of the 10-year plan. And the next year when it, you know, worked its way to the 9th year, they'd push it to the 10th year. And then after a long time, they just said, hey, if we're not really serious about this thing, just drop it entirely off. And then, as you say, then somebody said, well, let's kind of get that back on again. I'm a little surprised that it's actually listed in 2029 and not, I don't know, what is the 10th year? 2032. I'm surprised it's not in 2032.
Yeah.
Again, this, you know, I know the area very well. It's like walking distance, a long walk, but walking distance of my house. So yeah, we've got Stoneman's, we've got Fahey's, we've got, I think, Bowman property, and then to the west is the Fitchburg Dog Park. And then beyond, farther to the west, I don't know who owns that anymore. I don't think ownership has changed in a long time in any of those, except for the dog park being city property. This will be a difficult project to come to pass. I don't think this is a secret. When we're on camera, we're on record and everything. Stoneman's are actively, they have converted their farm from corn, soybeans to Scottish Highlanders, and they're doing very well at that. They've developed a lot of the fields into grassland fields for the cattle. They've increased the number of cattle that are on this, in addition to Kevin's farm over in town of Dunn that has over 100 cattle. So they're doing really well in this business. So in other words, and of course, Stoneman's sweet corn. So in the neighborhood, we always hope Stoneman's are going to stay sweet corn. And Scottish Highlanders are doing well. They have an ongoing business, you know, for the meat and all of that, raising the cattle. Dave Fahey has developed Fahey Fields and then Highland Reserve. He has said he wants, in his plan, call it, he wants his, I don't know, 5th generation or whatever it is, farm to stay in the family. So to acquire any of this land from Stoneman's, from Fahey's, Bowman's over to the west, I don't know what's going on with their ownership. They just hold it. It's going to be very difficult to acquire any of this land. But again,
Well,
to just say we have an interest in it is good, but
I don't, it will not get anywhere speculating, but I appreciate the information. But I think we've had a good conversation, and Deanna has heard our conversation, so perhaps there will be some things that could be done, and I really like the idea of a presentation to the committee of the whole. It doesn't get done by just sitting in a box on a shelf, so we've got to talk it up. Anything else that anyone would like to add?
I have an important point that I wanted to bring up as part of Marine Edge Park right here. And I have a point that, as this is a perfect example. So I would like to present my point, especially to our Alder representative. Now, the idea of, I've tried to figure this out for the last many years about how this works. And it never shows up in the park budget because I've found out it's not a park budget element. It's a city budget element, and the budget is being discussed right now, and I finally found it in the city budget. The parkland dedication that developers have to pay is based on this, as I understand it, and somebody can tell me I'm wrong on something or other. When the developer has a site that they're going to develop, the first thing is Scott works out a calculation, and they're supposed to give the city acreage in their site, first cut. Then there was the Bill Horn's amendment quite a few years ago that says, okay, well, if you can't find enough area in your own site, you can find acreage outside of your site. And they can buy some acreage. That has happened. I know examples. And they can provide that acreage to the city. But the other way around, well, they're sort of obliged to dedicate some acreage somewhere. But then there is an allowance that they are, as I put it, and this has been discussed in Park Commission meetings in the past, they are allowed to request, not decide, but request to buy back the acreage that they are obliged to provide. And here's the tricky part, at the rate of $65,000 per acre. Now, we are all residents of the city of Fitchburg. Take a look at, anybody watching, take a look at your property tax bill and look at the unimproved land. And I would like to hear from anybody who says their unimproved land is at the rate of $65,000 per acre. I look back at mine. Mine increased last year. Mine increased 2 years ago. Mine increased 15 years before that. It was a long time ago that it was anywhere around $65,000 per acre. I've even talked with the city assessor at meetings to understand some about assessing and property and all that, and hopefully I'm not inaccurate in saying that she told me that there is no land in the city that is less than $100,000 per acre. Now,
So
the
this
point,
is a funding source point
Yeah.
for Marine Edge Park.
yes, exactly, yes. So the idea of this park dedication is if the developer is not giving us an acre, either in their site or out of their site, they should be giving us the money to the city so the city can take that money and go buy an acre somewhere else. When the park dedication fee of $65,000 per acre has not changed, I believe, in like 30 years, but all of us residents have had our property taxes for the unimproved land, not the house part, but the unimproved land. Take a look at your own bill. Figure out your part of an acre times whatever to get up to a per acre rate. It is way more than $65,000 per acre. I know specific examples where it is $400,000 per acre. That's without a house, without the improvements. $400,000 per acre. Mine, I've got a half an acre times 2 is about 160 something per acre for my per acre rate. Now, it's supposed to be, they give us the money, we can take that money and buy another acre. When we don't have enough money because $65,000 doesn't buy an acre anywhere, the city, meaning us, the taxpayers, have to subsidize that. If it is $400,000 an acre to go buy an acre somewhere, which is very actual in practice real, that means we got $65,000 from the developer to go buy an acre somewhere, but it costs $400,000. That means all of us taxpayers have to subsidize it with $335,000 of taxpayer money.
Right, so Julia.
On the levy.
Julia, regarding, because you've been on Finance Committee, et cetera, and this, as Patrick's point is taken, that this fee has not changed.
Yeah, am I saying anything wrong?
But what I want to know, is this another issue where presenting to Committee of the Whole might be helpful?
I think, you know, when we vote the budget in a couple of weeks, we are at the last page of the budget, there is all the fee. So we are approving all the fee, and this is part of that, you know. So I think there is also, we need to have a discussion with economic development because, you know, if we want to attract more housing and we are telling the developers, you know, I want to put it, you know, the two, why sometimes it could be a difficult conversation to have. So, you know, if you're talking to the development team here, they're going to tell you, well, we are making our project or bring a development to Fitchburg more expensive because they need to pay more money for park dedication fee. I think what we need to do is to determine how much are the other fee in, you know, Middleton, Verona, you know, to see if we are comparable fee with them or competitive, or we are, you know, this is, I had that discussion in the past, but the answer was we had to be careful what we wish because we are increasing, if we want to bring more affordable housing in Fitchburg, then, and we are putting this fee to developers sometime, you know, they're going to say, you guys are too expensive to bring a development to the city because you have all this fee, okay?
Yeah.
So this is what I think. I think we need to determine how we compare our fees with other municipalities. Maybe we need to have a discussion with maybe Mike Zimmerman and, you know, and his team to determine if we decided to say we want to increase this fee, what could be the impact, you know, in future development coming to the city. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
well, and with Patrick bringing it up,
yeah.
now it's in context of the large amount of acreage in the Marine Edge Park project.
I get it. You know,
So,
what you're saying is right. I am not this, you know, he's right. You know what I mean? And it's more surprising that we have no increase this in so many.
yeah. So as you say, finding out the comparable.
Exactly. Why, you know, but in the budget, in the last part of pages of the budget, we have, if you look at that, there is all these fees.
That's where I found it finally.
And then when we approve the budget, we approve all these fees.
So is somebody offering to find out what the comparable fees are in that acreage number in other nearby?
Well, that's it. It's the point of what the other cities charge for a fee. And I have heard on Park Commission meetings in the past, even before I was on the Park Commission, the developers would show up and they'd wine and crab and something else and complain about the fees. And we already dropped one of the fees, the street frontage fee, out of the 3 fees that used to be charged. The park dedication fee is a big one. Now, my point regarding the Moraine Edge Park is if we ever have any intention of acquiring Moraine Edge Park, this is like a perfect example. This has been tried before and it didn't work. Tell developers, okay, you owe us some acreage, buy something along this green slice right here. It's up to you to figure out how to do it, but get some acreage there and dedicate it to the city, and we will start to have a Moraine Edge Park. And if it's not for sale, here's the hitch. We can take the money, but it really should be a fair, you know, compared to the taxpayers here, all of us, it should be a fair acreage price, and $65,000 has gotten way too low. It has been static, where our improvement land that we own as taxpayers has escalated, you know, and so that their fee has fallen way behind real times. But if we can collect the money from the developers at a fair acreage price, maybe the city can try to buy some land. Now, the problem is that there's this new developer Bill of Rights thing that was passed, and if we do even collect the money, I don't know what the timeline is, 7 years, 10 years, whatever the heck it is, if we don't spend that money, they get it back, which means we'll have to buy either some land along Moraine Edge Park or find some way.
No, we are using the money, don't worry for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, Scott can go crazy.
all right.
But there is that hitch also. You have to spend the money within a time limit or else the developers just get it back. So there's that hitch. It has to be spent on something, legitimate things. But
Katie,
my suggestion here is either my alder sitting next to me or any alder at all or all alders could on their own, or this park commission could request our alder representative to make an amendment into the budget and see where it goes in the current budget discussions to increase the park dedication fee to some amount, pick a number. I mean, I would be happy to see 400,000 per
I think
acre.
that's a recommendation you can make as a citizen.
Anybody, yeah,
I think
alders,
the park commission agenda
Yes.
topic is kind of done.
well, it's
Yeah.
kind of like,
yeah,
if we would like our alder to do
we've-
that, we can sort of, hey,
You know what we
Julia.
need to do when the public hearing that we have
Uh-huh.
for the budget
I know.
on Tuesday night, you come
I know.
Yeah.
and you, because I will tell you, some of the elders that are new, they don't have an idea that, about that this fee has been there forever. And maybe there is another reason why we cannot increase it because it's an state limit. I don't know. I had to find out that.
I never heard one.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think I invite you to come on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I apologize because we've strayed, and I'm supposed
Well,
to.
it was the point of, if we ever want Moraine Edge Park, we gotta have
Yes.
the money to buy it.
We have-
This would be a way.
Yeah, correct, and I appreciate that. But we're going to move on to the next topic.
Yeah, because I understand.
Yeah, okay. So the teen center update is next.
Yes, and I did include in your comments kind of the status of the teen center update, and Deanna is here from the planning department and could certainly answer any questions that the group may have, but I guess I would just review the comments that I included in the agenda, and that's kind of the status of where the teen center is at.
Okay?
Very good.
Yeah.
Any questions on that one?
Nope.
All right.
For me, anybody else? I'm answering for everybody here. Any questions?
Well, wait, there's a lot to look over here. I'm trying to, what page is that on? Oh, here we go.
Begins on page 72 in the packet, Heidi.
Okay, thank you. So I guess, can you just bottom line it for me? Like, where are we at?
Well,
is there
here,
a
if I,
decision on where?
EQT by Design submitted their report on the Teen Center Community Engagement Analysis to the city. Our new city planner continues to get settled in and has been working on a statutory requirement update to our farmland preservation plan and RFPs for the 2 neighborhood studies, Greenfield and South Stoner Prairie, among other items. He will take some time to review the report from EQT by Design and begin to develop an RFP for the next steps in this process.
Okay, so, all right, so just back on hold.
Yeah, there's nothing that we're doing here at the Parks Commission level
Right,
at all
right,
right now. Nothing pending for
right.
us to
And-
decide.
Right, and the teen center itself is kind of housed in the Parks Department because it really doesn't have a home. So at this point, it's housed with you guys. So that's the interest from the Park Commission.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, Heidi.
Are we on to communication? I think that's where we are.
Very good. And what I've been trying to do, I don't have anything listed in communication, but I've been trying to send emails and updates on several things that are kind of happening, which I think actually work better because it reminds me of what's going on, and then I share it with you guys, and then you in turn know what's going on, kind of thing. So hopefully that continues to to work for the Park Commission and your communication and updates.
That's appreciated. I appreciate it. And staff, are there any questions about communication items that we received over time and space? Okay, staff reports and updates. Scott?
Any questions? We can certainly try to answer them.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Just a few things that I marked right here. This is Jordan's report. Painting and rebuilding signs, that's the park signs. That is still ongoing?
It is ongoing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Installing the dog park drinking fountain. I see there's a couple pipes sticking out of the ground now, so it needs controls and it needs electric service, and there's lighting that's going to be as part of that, so that's kind of in the middle of that.
It's in the works, yeah.
Ongoing.
Yep, ongoing.
Going along well?
Going along well.
Okay, good.
No pun intended.
Yes, no pun. The playground by west of the pickleball courts in McGaw, that is the base is being put in right now. We've already selected the playground equipment, so is that going to be installed this fall yet?
It is actually, yep. They're working to get that ready, the site ready for installation.
The only other thing that I will say in the director's report, in the middle there, attended monthly IP committee meeting. You remember from last meeting, it's not an IP Internet Protocol network meeting. It's inclusive playground, if you could spell that out.
Damn, I miss it again.
You did. Okay, that's all.
No, you found it. You won the prize.
That's right.
You found I put one of them in there. Just seeing if you would find it. And you found it.
Flash Gordon decoder. For those of a certain generation that know what that means.
I worked very hard to try and do it. So.
Can you provide an update about the inclusive playground? We installed the benches. Yeah.
Yep, there's some benches that were installed. And actually, I thought I sent that, didn't I send that all to the Park Commission, actually? The things that we were working on, the tree planting plan that's coming up this weekend, and the rock and the boulder, and yeah, so I thought I sent all that, yep, all that to the Park Commission.
You know, there's a tree planting that was sent out by Jake to the dog park advocates at 1 p.m. on Sunday. For tree planting. Good, and actually it's Optimus Club is paying for the trees, and then the Sierra Club is participating, and kind of a group. Jordan's going to dig the holes, if you would, tomorrow and get them planted.
Okay. Future agenda items, are we there? Well, I hope to keep Southdale on as a different park name on a future agenda item. And now that I know it's for sure the District 3 Alders, I'll try to make a connection to them to see if they have advice or information that may be helpful. Does that sound like a plan? Is that all right?
Sure, and I think certainly the history of Southdale and how it came to become Southdale, there may be some history there. Maybe they donated it or whatever it might be. So we certainly don't want to all of a sudden take over.
The mall is across from there is called Southtown. But it doesn't matter, however it was named, and if I don't prevail in the end, I won't cry. But I think it's just worth pursuing the question. And so I'll start to do that just a little bit.
Question from me.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure this is really clear. There is not a North Stoner Prairie Park review meeting next Wednesday, or was it Thursday? Whatever. There is none on October 13th at 6:30 here. That was a working it out, not ready to go yet.
I provided that info just as draft information.
Because I wrote it down, I was figuring, okay.
Yep, I didn't send it out to anybody, so yep.
Well, it went to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to keep you guys in the loop, that's for sure.
No, I thought it was official.
So you didn't share it with anybody then, Patrick?
I'm not in the area, so my neighbors probably would not be interested, but I was interested. I was going to be here.
Excellent.
No, I know. I got the day off, I guess.
Okay, so Announcements, our next two meetings are November 3rd and December 1st. Any other announcements to make?
There may be a small-scale egg open house forthcoming. I'm not going to mention a date because I'll get held to it, so we'll wait until it's officially set. But it's coming soon.
We're at the point of needing a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
7:39.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Likewise. Thanks.